Right. Welcome to this workshop. So glad that you all could be here with me today, whether live or on the recording. If you are new here and new to me, my name is Terry. I am a Christian, a wife, a mom, a pharmacist, integrative health practitioner, and I love to come on here and just share my experiences and things that have helped me in hopes that it will help you as well. I just love to help people gain more energy and more clarity in their life, whether that be physically or mentally, just so that we can show up better and so that we can do His work better. And so that's what I want to do today. This topic has kind of been coming up a little bit for a lot, honestly, a lot of us, and I hear it in different ways that people talk about the things that are going on in their lives. I feel it from other people. I feel it myself. I just think that this is a great. There's never been a greater time to talk about this, resting well, and what that really means. And no, I'm not just meaning you to take naps every day and need to physically get more rest at night. Yes, you might need to physically get more rest at night, but there's a lot of other things that we can do that you may not have really thought about that could really benefit you in this way. And so I kind of wanted to share a little bit about my story and how hopefully that you can come to see how this was really a hard battle for me, and how it's just has become such an important thing, and how hopefully I can help you with practical ways that you can do this as well. So resting well is not a luxury that some lucky people get to do. It's not like some people just get to do this more than others. I think we all have to prioritize it if we see value in it. And that's what I hope that you'll do after this workshop today. And like I said, it's not just like taking a nap or being physically still. To me, it's so much more mentally than we realize. So, a little bit about me. If you don't know, excuse me, I feel accomplished when I achieve things, when I do things. That's just how I'm wired. When I am productive, I just feel like I have the best day. I'm just in the best mood. I just feel the best when I feel like I have been productive that day. There's nothing more satisfying. There was nothing more satisfying to me than ticking through a to-do list and feeling productive. Just kind of going back over the years, I didn't really realize this about myself, but definitely when I was in pharmacy world, and when I worked even as a technician and as a pharmacist, I was highly productive in my job. I just saw work and I did it, and it was just something that I could multitask really well, and I just got all the things done, and it was just something I did, and I think it was just something you had to do as well. But I think it comes maybe more natural to some people than others, and it definitely came natural to myself. And it really wasn't until I left my full-time pharmacy job and came home to work on my own that I realized maybe how bad this problem was. I could seriously sit in my office all day long and just work, like all day long, because my number one strength is achiever, closely followed up by discipline and focus. And so I could seriously focus all day and be disciplined enough to sit in my office all day and just get it done. But it did serve me well in some aspects, and it does serve me well, but it definitely can come at a cost as well. A lot of times when I look back on it, and even still, I can find myself doing tasks that are not necessarily a priority just because I want to feel accomplished for that day. And I want to feel accomplished in what I'm doing. So I just find more things to do. And not that they're always bad things, but yet I know that they didn't really need to be done. I just wanted to feel accomplished, like I said. I rarely took days off. Even though I could, and obviously when I was working at the pharmacy, I had to take days off. And, there was only a certain amount of days that I had. But I mean, when you work for yourself, obviously you don't want to take every day off, but surely you can take a little bit of time off. It was very rare that I took days off, or I took even like time outs during the day. I would just work all day in my office just because I was so used to, I think, as well in the pharmacy world, when you were at your desk filling prescriptions or doing whatever you're doing, and you really didn't get many breaks. And so I think I was used to that as well. And so it just kind of came over to me when I went at home to work for myself. And so it was just kind of a bad combination. And then at night when I got the kids to go, we got the kids to bed, I would go right back at it after the kids went to bed. And so it's just really not a good thing. I know so many people that work for themselves and work maybe from home, like you feel it too, because it's so easy to just pick up work wherever you left off. And honestly, when you work for yourself, there's just an endless amount of work that could be done. And so it was kind of just like the perfect storm. And that kind of worked out for a little while, but it wasn't too long before I realized and really started to feel super burnout. At one point, I was at the height of my success, as you would probably looking out in would see, but underneath it all, I felt more burnt out than ever, and basically, I just was stressed out to the max, for lack of better words. And I was working for myself. Basically, I was the worst boss ever. And it took that moment for me to just kind of, I won't say it was like rock bottom, but it was just like, I really felt the weight of that. And like I said, I had met a really big goal, but yet I felt so burnt out and just like, how can I continue to do this in the same vein? And it really took that for me to realize that there's no amount of success that was worth feeling like that. Like it didn't matter what the goal was that was met. It just was not worth it. And, I think that you have to get to that point and maybe this isn't exactly your story, but I'm sure that you can kind of see things in your life that mimic this. Maybe you're not necessarily just a get it done type of person, but maybe you just are constantly overextending yourself. I think we all have our different stories, but I think too, sometimes we are our own slave driver. Like we think we need to do all the things and be all the things and be everywhere for all the people in our lives, because, if you're a wife and a mom, you do have a lot of roles. And so it can definitely get out of hand really fast. And I still have that get it done mentality inside of me. Like I can totally get it done if I need to. But since that time 3 years ago, I have learned I can be even more productive, and it doesn't have to cost me my physical health, my emotional health, presence with my family. Like it doesn't have to cost all of that. And so no matter what your story looks like, I think you can all relate it to some degree, that we're not only overutilized, and overextended, we're overstressed in our mind as well, just because we have the weight of so many different things on us. And so I think all of that is really what I want you to think about today, and how you can kind of take some of that off and learn how to balance some of that out, even because I know there's some things that we can't change right now. And then there are things that situations that we're in, or jobs that we have, or whatever it might be. There's just so many things, but yet we can offset that, and we can prioritize resting well. And this class isn't really a class on self-care. I think that could be, you could easily think that this is kind of the same thing, but I think that can go sideways a little bit. And so this is really something different. So I think you'll see that as we go. But let's really quickly first just take it to the word. God has a lot to say about resting. In Genesis 2:2-3, he says, on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all of his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work and all that he had done in creation. So Jesus prioritized rest. God prioritized rest. I think so should we. Maybe you can't take a full Sabbath day on a Sunday. I know sometimes Sundays are really busy, and there's maybe work on Sundays. I don't know what it looks like for you, but I do think there are ways that we can fit in rest for our bodies, rest for our minds, into every day. So what does this transition look like? What did it look like for me? Because that's really what I love to share personal experiences, because hopefully you can relate to something about them. So first, it was realizing I had to find ways that I could come down from the stress and from the workaholic tendencies during the day. I think that it's so often that we carry stress in our day-to-day lives, from our day. Let's say, just for me, I work during the day and then I would pick my kids up and from school. And so I was carrying stress from my work day into making up my kids, making dinner, bath and bed. Like that's kind of there's a general more stressful time for moms during the day, just that witching hour, I used to call it. Not so much anymore. My kids are a little bit older than that now, but it can be a stressful time during the day. And there was no beginning and end. And so I would just carry the stress just all day. It was just, and there was no break in that. And it was a huge mistake for me. And for so many of us, we just don't think about the ramifications of that. And so just to kind of combat that, what I really found helpful was to use something called the 3 anchor method. And I talk about this in the Rebalance for Resilience program. And I teach people to really help themselves by creating 3 anchors throughout the day. Really, really easy, really practical things, whatever's going to work for you. But it helps you to have check-ins during the day, because before you know it, the day's just gone to whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, it's just like, by the end of the day, you're like, what happened? And I'm not really sure. And that's just a way that our stress has no beginning and no end. And so the 3 anchor method is just a way that we can have predictable parts to our day that prioritize rest and stress reduction, so that we aren't just one big long stress bubble. And it really helps to break things up so that we can come into stress, but we can come out of it. I think we're really good at coming into it, but we're not really good at coming out of it. And also in the Rebalance for Resilience program, I talk about how much of an impact that has when we stay in that fight or flight, that stress mode, and we don't ever get into what's called a parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and the rejuvenation that our body needs to offset when we're in the stressful states. We're kind of in that survival state. So what does this 3 anchor method look like? For me, it's morning, midday, and evening. That's really, that's the easiest way that I know to look at it. In the morning, I just really think it's super important to get up a little bit earlier than everybody else in your house. I know you've probably heard this before, whether you do it or not. It's important. I've seen it when I don't, and I've seen it when I do, and I've seen it enough times to know I need to do it. And especially during the week. On the weekends, I'm a little bit more relaxed, but my kids are older too. When they were younger, I did used to get up earlier than them. Just even 10 minutes helps so much. So what do you do in that time? Whatever is going to fill your cup. For me, it's devotion and prayer first, and then I like to get in some kind of movement. Now, I don't always do that on the weekend. Like I said, I work out if I work out on the Saturday, it might be more like midday, but I just love to get some movement in the morning before I get my day started during the week. And so I get up and I do devotion and prayer for about 30, 45 minutes, and then I have a workout. It's like 20 to 30 minutes. So that's what my morning looks like. But whatever it is, it's something that I can create rhythm around. It's something that really helps me to get my thoughts together and get my mind fixed on the word and what God has for me that day, and his truths. And so that is a really big anchor for me. Next is midday. So whether that's 11, 11:30, whether it's 1 or 1:30, it doesn't really matter. But you have to have some check-in during the day. This is really kind of where I fell off when I would get into just these stressful days. I've always kind of had a pretty good morning and evening routine, but it was really midday that would just it would just get pushed aside, because I had my to-do list and I had to get finished with it, right? I mean, I prioritized that over anything else. And so I might have scheduled into my calendar, meditate or take a walk or read a book, but it just would never happen. It really wouldn't. So now I feel like I know that it's so important to me, because the thing that got me was I was carrying the stress over and I was taking it out on my kids. And that's just not okay. And as I found myself doing that, I'm like, I've got to do something about this. And so what I started doing first was, right before I went and pick them up, before I kind of finished my day, I would do just like a quick 10-minute meditation. And meditation doesn't have to be weird. It's really just, for me, I love to use an app called Abide. And it's a great app that it's Christian based. And so it just kind of has like a theme for that session. And it they tell you scripture and they give you time for prayer. And so it's really just a way that I can get out of my own head and just get into breathing and relax a little bit and shift. So much of this is simply just shifting our perspective and our physical state, and really just getting into that more of a restful type of feeling in our body. And so that's just what has worked really well for me. I still do that. And I've also added in more. I really like to take a walk midday, maybe after I eat lunch. It's a really great thing to do to get more in that parasympathetic nervous system, and also just to get your mind off the computer and out in nature. So that is a really great thing. I don't do it every single day, but I really love to do that. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's reading, whatever it is. Simply put down your phone, get off the computer, get out of your normal work environment, and just go out and do something. Maybe if you, when I used to work at the pharmacy, I would go at my lunch break and I would work out, or I would go walk, or I would do something else so that I broke up my day. So find something that works for you and do it. Set an alarm if you need to. And then evening, I really love a bath. If you know anything about me, if you've been following me at all, you know that I really love baths. I like to read also, especially if I have a good book. And I really love to do hot tea at night. I feel like it just relaxes me. It's a way that I don't have to eat anything, but yet I can kind of feel satisfied in that way. I just love hot tea. I usually get like a cinnamon one, and I love to put cinnamon essential oil in it too. It's great. But that's just a way that I really love to kind of relax. Like I can literally just feel my body relaxing when I get in the bed and I drink my tea, and it's like, ah. So whatever that is for you, find it. I would used to catch myself all the time simply getting in bed and scrolling my phone, which is a big no-no for me now. Occasionally I'll do it, but it's only for 5 minutes because I'll catch myself and then I'll just go put my phone in the other room. But that is not relaxing to most people. Even though you feel like it is, it's really not. It's very stimulating to your brain. It can be emotionally charged. There's just so many things, right? I mean, you could read something and just like keep you up all night. That's not what we really want to be doing at night, and to really rest well, because you're trying to set your body up to get an amazing night's sleep. So whatever that is, find that and make it non-negotiable. I think so often as women and as moms, we do wear so many hats, and there's so much to do. I mean, I'm literally like putting my kids in bed, going to make my tea, and getting in bed myself. And I just think that some things have to go so that we can prioritize that time for ourselves and that time with our spouse or whatever it is. And it's not selfish, and it's very much needed for you to be a better wife and a better mom and a better employee or whatever it is. So what are some practical things that we can do to really rest well? So here are a few examples. There could be a lot more than this, but just a few that I wanted to point out. Saying no is huge. If you are overextended and you're constantly saying yes to everything that comes across your way, then no wonder you're overextended. Of course, I think there are key things that we need to say yes to, right? But we just say yes way too often, especially as women. And so I think most of us are completely overscheduled, as well as our children, and it's just bad. And I'm not immune to this either at all. But the thing is that most of us think it's out of our control. And most of the time our schedules just run us, when we really need to think about how we can more so be more in control of our schedule. And it might take a really big lifestyle change. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be done overnight, but is your health and your peace and your presence, is it worth it? Because that's the price that you're paying whenever you are overextending yourself. And what about your kids? They feel this too. And what are we teaching our kids? You know, do we want to set them up to feel like they always have to be doing the same things, you know, just saying yes all the time and being on the go all the time? It's just really important to think about these things, because they learn from seeing what we do. And to me, that's very, very important. So not only are we overscheduled our activities, but for women, it's just really hard to say no. And we think we're being just rude or ugly, or we're not helping anybody when we say no, but it's kind of the opposite. Sometimes it's better to say no so that you can allow somebody else to step up. So just some things to think about, but saying no more often is really a big part of this equation. Secondly, not pushing yourself 24/7. This is something that I had to learn the hard way, as I said. Just knowing when you need a break is so essential. And this is something that I used to think was super just unnecessary. And it was like only weak people needed to take breaks. Like, oh my gosh, I was a slave driver. And I still am sometimes. I'm not perfect at this, but I know now when I need to take a break. I'm not saying I 100% always do it at the exact time that I need to, but I know that it's super important for me to take breaks and to really not get in a situation to where I'm having this non-ending stress in my life. And so, yes, I could work for 6 to 8 hours straight at my desk, but that's not really what's best, is what I found. And I'm less productive and I'm more stressed, and my peace is sacrificed. So, I think that's very important to think about, not pushing ourselves 24/7. Um, Practically just taking a bath just because. Maybe not. Maybe you already took a bath that day. Maybe you just want to take another bath. So it's not necessarily necessary, but it's just something that we know is going to really pay us so much more in just rest and rejuvenation and getting our mind right. Maybe have a great book. Maybe read your Bible during that time. It's just 100% not a waste of time. And find whatever that is for you and do it just because. Taking 10 minutes for prayer, for silence, for meditation, just to change your state, your physical state, your mental state, your emotional state. It is something that this is probably the most powerful thing, honestly, because I'm so much in my mind and my thoughts, and it's just, there's constantly something going on up there, like all the time. So, finding a way that I can create a break in that and really change my thoughts and get into more of a, this is great for me to like switch gears. So I'll switch gears out of work to now I'm in the mom role and I'm going to be present with my kids, and maybe we're going to make dinner together, whatever it is. It's super key, because if I stay in that work mode, it just doesn't end. And whatever that is for you, we've got to find a break for that. Taking time to feed yourself well. Yeah, it's big. Taking the time to get in the kitchen and prepare simple, healthy food is 1,000,000% worth your time. And it's one of the biggest ways that we neglect ourselves, honestly. And you're like, well, you're talking about resting well. Now you're talking about feeding yourself well. What does that have to do with each other? But your body can't rest well if it's constantly being given crap, for lack of better words. Because it's trying to figure out what to do with that you just gave it. And so it's on overdrive. It's working in overdrive, trying to digest and pick apart and use whatever you gave it. So when we eat simple, real, whole foods, we actually do give our body a rest. And so that's definitely part of this equation. So don't neglect yourself in that way, and don't think that you need that I'm saying go rest and not cook and not feed yourself in that way, because that's definitely not what I'm saying. So let's chat really quickly about delegation. So delegation is simply asking for help. And I want you to do a little check-in. I'm actually going to have a few reflection questions at the end in just a minute. But how good are you at asking for help? How good are you at asking for help? Does it come easy to you? If not, you might want to reconsider. So a quick little story. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was still working full time, of course, and I remember my husband saying, "I think we need to consider having someone clean our house." And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "I can do that. I can totally still clean our house and raise a child and work full time and be a great wife and mom. Like, I can totally still do all that." I was like offended that he would even think that I couldn't do it all. Oh, Carrie, young Carrie. But I quickly realized that was not the case. And I'm glad that I took his advice and went ahead and hired someone to clean the house a couple of times a month, just to help us with, picking up and cleaning up. And that has been one of the best things that we've ever done and continue to do. And I just think that delegating and hiring and asking for help, delegating is just a really fancy word for asking for help. that it's one of the things that we're not good at, especially as women, especially as people that think they can do it all. But sometimes it's one of the best things that we can do, even though it's not one of the easiest things that we can do. And sometimes it feels really weak to ask for help. But when you ask for help, you're actually giving someone else a chance to do something that they're really good at, to earn money for their family, to, hone their skills even. So I just think that if we start looking at it a little bit differently, there's just endless possibilities. A few things that I want you to just consider where you might need help in. First one definitely will be cleaning, house cleaning. That's one of the easiest things to outsource and the quickest and the most productive, honestly. And that could save you hours and hours a week. Honestly, before I had the house cleaner, confession, I just didn't clean as much. So I would get up the things as you can see, but the other stuff was way neglected. So maybe that's you, maybe not. But anyway, other areas to delegate in would be business duties. Maybe you have a business of your own and you could ask for help in different things like shipping or packaging up things, or maybe it's online work, whatever it might be. There are things that you're doing in your business that you have no business doing because somebody else could do it. Laundry, dishes, food prep, maybe watching your kids would be another thing that you could ask for help for. And I want you to think about, these are not things that you always have to delegate outside of your home and find someone to do them. Ask someone to come in. These could be things like asking your kids to help you with some of these things. And what a great way to teach them some responsibility as well. So it doesn't always have to be, let's find other people outside of our home to come in, which, a lot of these things you might would, but getting your kids involved and helping them, delegating to your kids. That's one thing that is most of the time free. It might cost you a little bit of money as far as allowance, but that will pay off so much in so many ways, right? And so as we close, just a few reflection questions. So do you feel stressed and overwhelmed most of the day? What times of the day do you feel most stressed? Based on what you just heard yourself say, what the answer to those questions were, and to what I've covered throughout this workshop, do you rest well? During the day, in the morning, at night, in general. What are 3 times during the day that you could just do a mini check-in and spend 10 minutes on yourself or with yourself? What is one area that you might could delegate, whether outside of the home or inside of the home with your kids? And are you worth the focus and the effort that it might take to change in this area? So I just want you to think about some of those questions, and I am going to have this recording and the questions and a few other little notes and highlights in a blog post on my website, and that should be up pretty shortly, or definitely by tomorrow. And I just want to encourage you with this because I feel like it's something that definitely women need so much. I feel like men maybe might be a little better at this, maybe not. It just depends. But women, sometimes we're not really good at this, and we're really paying for it in our peace and our presence and our physical and emotional health. And so no matter what your circumstances are, I want to leave you with this. Matthew 11:28-30 says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest in your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I think we can all find rest in him, and I think that is the most important rest that we can find. And so again, I hope this has been helpful to you. If it has been, I would love it if you would share it with, maybe it's your mom or a friend or your sister or somebody that just came to mind that might use this information, because I feel like if we rested better, we could just be so much more to those around us and do so much more of his work and show up so much better in the world, so that we could really do the things that he's called us to do in an even greater way. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all later. Bye, everyone.